Okay, so let's go ahead and get this part out of the way, shall we? Jiggly TikTok girl is a bona fide brick house. I don't think anyone with sense would dispute that. And the Home Depot chick is probably the baddest box retail biddy since that one Amazon worker who got killed in a tornado because Jeff Bezos is a greedy goat nut gobbling goober. That being said, originally I wasn't going to make a video about this because it's goofy and the discourse around it is even goofier. But in the same spirit as that if I were president for a day video I did a while back, I feel compelled to say something because I am a YouTube after all. And my ever climbing subscriber count has made my sense of self-importance skyrocket to astronomically high levels, like Stephen A. Smith high. So before we even get started, what makes this controversy all the more dumb is that neither Retail Baddie or Jiggle Girl even wanted the kind of attention that they've been getting. And you can kind of tell that it wasn't really expected either, despite what that contingent of particularly musty men have to say. One went out of her way to respond to practically every reply on her post before ultimately saying, "F it, this ish is way too much." And the other one went on record saying that she would never make a Twitter account because of how much of a hellscape this app is. Even more so after Elon, the amazing elongated forehead, has further enabled neck-bearded knuckle draggers to hurl racist and homophobic insults at the same people they wouldn't even make eye contact with in real life. And yes, I'm speaking directly to you, bucko. So for those of y'all who aren't on Twitter because you have a life, unlike me, or you're not a masochist, also unlike me, Jiggle Girl and Retail Baddie went viral over the past, month or so. For what reason, I really can't tell you. But since then, their very existence has led to a deluge of unwanted commentaries and think pieces from men and women alike across the Black Twitterverse, because evidently, horny and hateration are our canon events. The worst part of this discourse is how both of these girls have been unwillingly held up as paragons of virtue by that contingent of musty men I mentioned earlier, and even by that even mustier contingent of women pining for the approval and attention of their equally miserable counterparts by pointing out how both of these girls have somehow managed to both be attractive and not sex workers at the same time. Shocking, I know. Now, this discourse was always inevitable because, again, some people don't have anything better to do than project their own self-loathing onto the people they beat their meat to. But remember, folks, this one literally does nothing but try on club clothes, and this one just went to work with makeup on. How in the blue suede shoe did you go from that to bitching about OnlyFans for the umpteenth thousand time, nigga? Now, some of y'all might be sitting there saying, but Billiam, the discourse wouldn't have even started if Home Depot girl hadn't slut-shamed OnlyFans models, which, no, bucko, that's not what happened. What actually happened was, again, horny niggas took it upon themselves to sexualize the girl to the point of practically begging on hands and knees for her to start an OnlyFans account, to which she responded by basically saying that her daddy taught her better. Now, you can choose to take that comment whatever way that you want, but Twitter, as it is wont to do, blew the thing completely out of proportion and out of context, no less, as a result of niggas and niggettes alike projecting their collective insecurity and or prudishness onto this one woman. And okay, I guess since I do have Mariah Mills in the thumbnail, I kind of gotta talk about her, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean, you being a 32-year-old woman having a public meltdown over your barely legal would-have-been sugar daddy shotgun baby shower is low-key, or actually is very goofy. And also low-key harassment. But I mean, come on, y'all. If Mariah had any other profession besides star, niggas would be Twitter dapping Zion for bagging an older biddy instead of clowning her for doing it on camera with white dudes for like a decade. Matter of fact, almost all the discourse would be about how irresponsibly messy this nigga Zion is. Like, bruh, you mean to tell me with all that time on the bench and you going back and forth with the front office over how they handled your injury and your weight issues, You was out here playing BBL Bandit instead of getting in game shape. Now listen, I'm not trying to fat shame the nigga. I know how hard staying in shape is when you have injuries. And I've basically had weight issues since boyhood. Like, my metabolism is more contradictory than a black B officer. Like, I can be one cheeseburger away from the big and tall section one day, and by the end of like that very month, I look like I'm trying out for a Marvel movie. So I get it, is my point. But nigga, your entire livelihood depends on you being in shape. Like, get a nutritionist, get a dietitian, nigga, get a voodoo priestess. Hell, I don't know, you're in New Orleans, right? Matter of fact, don't do that, because knowing you might try to smash her. I'm sorry, y'all. I know I'm coming off extra hard on this nigga, but as a dude who got robbed of my junior and senior years playing ball right as I was actually becoming a good football player and not just a big nigga who could hit really, really hard, when I see dudes squander their talent for a little piece of tail, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of get it. But still, it makes me mad either way, just not for the same reasons that it makes y'all mad. See, niggas, including Stephen A. Hairline, are out here clowning Zion, not for how messy he is, but because he smashed a sex worker. Like, Wilt Chamberlain wasn't out here booking foursomes days in advance like Hurts for horny niggas, and Magic bringing a whole ass epidemic home to his wife. Like, y'all were literally pulling bro code on D-Lo for dry snitching on Nick Young, but Zion gets all the think pieces and unk talks. Like, nigga, shut up and miss me with that cautionary tail cap. Again, I guarantee that if y'all had close to the kind of bag that Zion has, y'all would do the exact same thing. I mean, messiness aside, obviously, the only shade that I can give Zion is for not calling Jada Fire first. And as far as the age gap thing goes, yeah, I already acknowledged how sus Mariah looks in this situation, but Diddy is right there playing BBL Bandit with Young Miami, and y'all treat him like the king of dolphin teeth niggas for it. Remember when Boozy paid for his 13-year-old son's first BJ? Or when Birdman said he paid a neighborhood thotty to trick out a 13-year-old Wayne and watched? Or Lil Tyler's entire persona, with a vocal minority being the exception, of course. Y'all niggas and niggettes, for that matter, literally do not care about grooming or essay unless and until the perpetrator is someone you either don't like or don't respect. And it's not a coincidence that it's almost always
a woman. Now, listen to what...
Like, how else do you explain crackhead Chris over here and great value D'Angelo still selling out shows and topping charts despite a literal decade plus of documented violence against women? Like, seriously, matter of fact, I know you niggas hate women. And for those of y'all who can't separate hating women from loving sex, that's kind of my point, bucko. And why you need to touch grass immediately and leave X videos alone. And also Pornhub, and also RedTube. Leave me alone, I'm recovering. Now, here's the thing. I don't necessarily believe addiction is a thing in a way that an actual addiction is defined by actual psychologists, but I do think that overexposure to porn, especially at a young age, can warp a person's understanding of sex in a way that is very, very harmful. I'm speaking from experience, folks. What I mean is, porn, more so than basically any other form of entertainment, in my opinion, is wish fulfillment. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not meant to be a realistic depiction of the way that sex and relationships work. I mean, have you ever actually tried to do a standing 69 IRL? Actually, don't even answer that. Additionally, like all mainstream media, is designed to appeal primarily to cishet white men, and thus everything from the acts performed to the actual progression of events leading up to said acts are designed to be wish fulfillment. Case in point, the fact that you can go to any smut shop off the side of your nearest local highway and grab a 3-hour-long BJ video straight off the rack. Hell, there are even entire websites dedicated to nothing but dick sucking and the aftermath. But you have to literally search lingus shots on even the most popular platforms. And fellas, I can all but guarantee you that no matter how much your lady loves playing the skin flute, she's going to expect some reciprocation at some point in real life. Again, speaking from experience. My point in saying this is I personally had my perception of both women and women's sexuality distorted by a number of things, including porn, but also growing up in the black church and adjacent to very socially conservative black people, men and women alike. TLDR, because a lot of us are operating according to white supremacist and patriarchal ideas of sexuality while also performing a toxically hyper masculinity that can be seen and heard in basically all black media that itself is a product of white supremacy, which I've talked about multiple times in the past now, so I'm not going to dwell. A lot of us are predisposed to applying that lady in the streets, freak in the sheets mentality, even to women that don't even know or care we exist. Women exist solely for our pleasure and our service, according to patriarchy. And this is why we can simultaneously rob a woman of her autonomy by making her internet famous for little more than being the newest addition to our cerebral spank banks, while also demonizing that same woman if she ever says to herself, all right, they want titties, then they can have titties.
But they gotta pay.
It's practically speaking the same logic behind the body count discourse, which is also goofy because literally everybody lies. And the stone cold reality is you will never truly know anyone's except your own. And Wilt Chamberlain's. But the idea that a woman can only run through so much meat before she's used up or for the streets is just more evidence of women being robbed of autonomy by a patriarchal society. Furthermore, to insist that she being for the streets is indicative of she lacking the virtue necessary for wifing is not only dumb, but misogynistic. Because again, men are literally taught to be and behave the opposite way to the point that we're thought to be gay or undesirable in some way or fashion if we don't bag a whole basketball team worth of baddies by the time we're 25. Like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and cap like I would be on board with my wife spreading her butt cheeks to the world for some quick cash, even though, I mean, we kind of need it. But I'm also not going to clown anyone else, much less a stranger, for doing the same, especially if they're single. Like, I know it's been said ad nauseum by this point, but the fact that so many of you musty, black-lipped, yuck-mouthed, perpetually ashy, and presumably jobless Neander niggas, and niggettes for that matter, can separate the art of people like Uzi X and Kodak from their well-documented abusive histories, or the fact that y'all literally did not give a dog's dick about Tory Bucktooth until his came to light, but an OF model is nothing more than an OF model, even when her coochie is off the clock, says that y'all really don't deserve to get y'all dicks wet in anything besides a bathtub. Nigga, they don't belong to you. So using strangers to slut shame other strangers that you know you would smash in a heartbeat if they gave you the time of day is not only goofy, but is straight up weirdo ass behavior. And don't say you wouldn't, because I can see your likes, bucko.